Right, back again. So, thought let's carry on the momentum and keep documenting. Today has been an interesting day. Woke up nice and early, too early, woke up about 6. Obviously, I'm trying to wake up about 8, and yet I felt energized, I felt ready to tackle the day, but I don't want to go too off of the plan. So went and got a few things from the fridge, went back to bed, ended up waking up. And then I was scrolling resources online, looking at various video content about the climate, because I was ready to, my mind was in gear, but my body wanted a bit more rest. So I was doing that for about an hour, ended up falling asleep. Now woke up about 10:30. At that point, I'm like, Christ, like, now we've gone the other way of the schedule. But you gotta remember, it's early days and I'm just easing my way into a routine where it becomes more natural. And my circadian rhythm kicks into my newly established routine. One thing I'm wary of, I do have plans to go back to the UK end of the month, and I'm worried that will just completely throw me off track from all the progress that I plan to make, or I already have the foundations to make. So I may shorten my duration of time in the UK or not go altogether, because for me, this is such and such that if I can get habit formation rather than just get into the brink and then I go and have all these influences and it's Christmas and I'm having places to be, people to see, influencers, like, that can throw me completely off track and just undo a month's progress. So I'm something to consider. Anyway, woke up 10:30, did 20 minutes meditation, great. Cold shower, great. Didn't check my phone, bar the hour slot I did at 6 a.m. Cracked on with the day, did my workouts, 10-minute workout, nothing. Thinking of incorporating chest into that, so it'll literally just be 2 sets of 25 chest push-ups, just to extend it a little bit and have a more full body. And it's one of them things where I gradually work until it's a more comprehensive workout. But for now, it's just about getting the blood pumping and getting the mind in sync, kicking in, just getting energized, getting the energy around the body, essentially. So that's one consideration. Now, decided there's a few things I need to get recently. I've had, my chargers have been playing up. I did have some high speed fast charger that got misplaced. So I went and bought a new charger, went to a new area just east of Westlake, where I am currently, and just north of Old Quarter, which is like the busy urban centre of Hanoi. So a nice little area, not entirely sure what it was called, but we got my charger, perfect. Then I was going to get some joggers because the weather's getting cold here, low-key, but stumbled across a coffee shop, ended up going for a coffee, and then I kicked into doing the work that I was set out to do for day 2, which is the website. So we're building a basic website on Card, CARRD. For me, simplicity and sophistication is a better approach to having some 10-page flashing and spinning website. You know what I mean? I just want the simple foundations, and that directs people in the right places, has a higher click-through rate, and it's just a better experience for me building it and for the end user, more so. This wasabi is a very olive colour. It's normally a bit brighter. I don't know if it's more natural or more processed. I did read the other day they mix it with horseradish, so maybe this is a more natural one, because I can imagine mixing it with other things like horseradish or mustard would make it go lighter. but I cracked on with this website on card. Now, two things are always going to cause you havoc in any line of life: other people and technology. I was having a lot of technical difficulties for such things that for me, in my mind, are just very simple functions, like getting the site to go to an element of the page, to scroll to a point in a page. So because I'm not using a premium plan just yet, I'm bootstrapping. I'm not paying for the premium. I want it just to be, there's no fault in it just being one long page and your links at the top of the buttons direct you to a point within that carousel, if that makes sense, within that long page. That's what I was going for. Now I was having problems with buttons. I was having problems with scroll to points. I was having problems with links. So we've got the foundations, and I'm no mug at tech, but it's one of them where you realize that you're getting diminishing returns on your time. So I've got the foundations, got a title, got the page titles, description, social links are working, them buttons are working. So we've got the foundations, that's fine for now. Day 2, that's what we wanted to get in place. So I've left that, as I say, kicked in, starting on this much later than planned. I wanted to do it in the morning. Morning became occupied, so it was an afternoon shift. Then had a bit of food, got myself some dim sum and some, what's it called now? Chop suey, some braised sweet barbecue pork with rice. Very nice. And then throughout the day, I also knew part of my completion for the day was to have content ideas. So 30 content ideas, so 21 satirical or macro aspects, and then 7 more micro aspects or more data driven aspects. So that's more for the professional, more for the businesses, and the others more for widespread attraction and virality. So we've got a bunch of topics that we've worked on throughout the day. I just want to crystallize them, not script them, but bear in mind my pen faded out. But essentially we've got the concepts that we're starting with. Koyanikatsi, which is just life out of balance. It's just a macro term for the problem that we're trying to solve. Eco-socialism, which is the economic structure that would stabilize long-term the vision of working harmoniously with nature. And the caveat with that is a lot of social ideals end up being authoritarian. So it's about, I mean, we'll probably delve into that within that content, either initially or at a later date. Solar punk, which is obviously the aesthetic, the thing that gives you the feeling that's lost in this cold, quantifiable, extractive work. Like, that's going to be the driving force for a vision that people can be motivated and driven by. Transportation's obviously a huge one, huge contributor, and something that's very visceral. We see it in every day. I'm here in Vietnam. I look at the traffic and it's astonishing. And yet there's so many alternatives. Even in the UK, look at that HS2 they were planning for so long. It was a logistical nightmare, and then they cut one leg of it and there's delays to it. And it's just you look at other countries, like Japan has the bullet train, for example, Euro rail, all sorts of different things, and you wonder why there's such inconsistencies throughout the world. And then you've also got, you know, you can talk about advanced transportation, things like electric cars, which are already coming to fruition, hydrogen and helium automobiles, and whatever other forms of transport. There's all sorts of different things. plastic is obviously a massive one. Another thing I note, again, these are things that I don't want to talk about things that are so detached from me, but since coming to Asia, I noticed every single little thing is put in a plastic bag. Anything and everything. And yet in the UK, I go to Lidl, they're going to charge me 30p just for one plastic bag. Like this, again, the discrepancy between the East, or what I've seen in the East, and what I'm thought was going on in the West, you know, using paper straws, we're cutting down on plastic bags, all this shit, like, doesn't make sense. Circular economy, which is not as simple as just recycling, but there's more to it than that. And another aspect I want to talk about in that is solar. So I bought a book today and I was seeing what's the long-term landscape look like. And solar is going to be the biggest energy source by 2050, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I was just page flipping while I was buying the book. And I believe I saw a diagram and it was whatever it was saying, solar was the biggest sector, which makes sense, right? Global warming, obviously going to have more UV, harness that UV and use it in favorable ways, right? That makes sense. So that is part of the circular economy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. So it's just about where you're harnessing that energy. The sun is the last thing in our universe to die, right? I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but that makes sense to harness that, and something that's getting technically more powerful, or more capturable, I believe. Don't quote me on this. Game theory, that's literally the way you view the planet, the way you view life. Is it a zero-sum game or is it a positive-sum game? Because the way I envision it is, and the way that it's possible is that life is positive-sum game, rather than I win, you lose. Or the way it is now, where people are raping the planet, essentially. It's one man wins, everyone loses, Mother Earth loses, and we are a part of Mother Earth. So, and ultimately they lose as well. They might think that God for one day, or what would be one day, a lifetime is essentially a day and the planet's gone forever. So next, class consciousness versus indigenous. That's again just kind of how we relate to the land and each other. Planetary rape, as I've just said, as above, so below. How you do anything is how you do anything is how you do everything. So again, kind of they all tie in really. If you're extracting and extracting and extracting, it's until that last tree is gone, that's when you realize it ain't coming back. So, and the reason I call it rape, because we, as a part of nature, as the human species, 99.9% of us are losing out. All the biodiversity, all the animals going extinct, ones that are having to relocate the habitat, the ones that are evolving because of us in ways that are not natural, that's all a result of a few people's actions. And so that's why I call it rape, because it's forceful extraction at the expense of the majority. I want to talk about China because I'm curious in their investments in Africa. I've seen an article today, they're trying to build some glass lift in Indonesia, but it's been put on hold. Again, curious about that. And also in China, like what is their government doing to control, because obviously it's such an industrial nation. I want to delve into that. Biodiversity loss, we've just crossed the first critical point, that is the coral reefs in warm waters are going to be significantly diminished, and there's no going back from that. And that's one of the first markers they outlined in this report that I'd seen, that, you know, we're not acting fast enough. Next, Planet World, which is a charity that I'm interested in. I want to see a bit more, and they restore biodiversity. I want to talk about how it's non-binary. Basically, people think, okay, it's too late, and they have this hopeless, pessimistic outlook when you can also have this optimistic outlook. I'm speeding up a bit because I'm wary that I have only 15 minutes on here, but we'll keep going. If it cuts out, I'll delete some memory and we'll have more space. Incomprehension. I want to talk about how it's, because it's so well, it's the topic in itself is something people don't take seriously or can't relate to, and I want to make it more visceral, and I want to show how people don't have big picture thinking, mostly by no fault of their own, because they have to think about day-to-day survival, the majority of people. So it's about making the incomprehensible more comprehensible. Macro versus micro is just something I've noted that I think I kind of said at the start, okay, I probably want my more humanistic account, the satirical, personal, relatable, authoritarian one to be, maybe not authoritarian, but that one, the more personal account. The Solar Punk and Funk main account is going to be more macro based, and the professional is going to be more micro based. So things like case studies that I've done, because it's my consultancy side, that is the plan. Nature having everything versus our 1D figment of our mind. That's essentially saying I personally believe everything is available to us in nature that we need, whether that's medicine, transportation, just joy, which just comes from each other, and yet we divide ourselves. Anything, what else? Clean water, everything we have in abundance, and yet we try and replicate the things that we have naturally, and that we can even, through biomimicry, look at what the Wright brothers did. Not the White brothers, the Wright brothers did. They looked at birds. There was one of the Wilbur Wright was in his bed looking out the window, looking at a bird, and he's like, how is that able to fly and we're not? And he created the plane, ultimately, despite them saying, okay, you won't be able to do it for another 1,000 years, and then there they are, they did it. That's biomimicry. But we can do that in plenty of ways. There's someone told me something about bees and how it has some potential to, it was something related to medicine, something that we are developing pharmaceutically. Again, things like the SSRIs we give for depression and anxiety, etc. It's just blocking a signal. It's not doing anything to solve the root problem. And yet the root problem, or the root solution, or the root avoidance, all comes down to living harmoniously with nature. So we've got that. And yeah, when I say the 1D figment of the mind, that's just technology is just a figment of our mind in our dimension, but there's so many more dimensions of the mind. Bear in mind, the universe, not the universe, Mother Earth has its own mind. But there's different, it expands and it gives, it's hard to explain because it's beyond the senses. That's the whole point. It's beyond the senses. So we think we live in this material world, and so our tech is a representation of that. And yet there's the whole spiritual paradigm, which is unexplored, that gives more than the tech can. I want to speed up a little bit because I'm bearing in mind we are on 19 minutes. So yeah, I want to talk. They're the things that I've drafted so far. I also want to talk about geopolitics, how I believe God is nature itself, or it talks to us through nature. All the different cultures, all the different mindset, all the way we're sculpted as humans geographically, all play a part in us coming together, give us our different strengths, our different weaknesses, our different resources. And that for me is how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Okay, basically I'm saying we're sculpted by nature. That's what I believe. I believe the fundamental forces, gravity, fire, earth, water, air, are the things that, I mean, that's what everything is. Everything is interconnected. That's why I do spirituality, because that shows the interconnectedness. That's what we need in this life. So I'm gonna draft those. I'm gonna upload this video. I'm gonna finish my sushi, and then I'm gonna read a book. So I bought some. I'm trying to lower my day-to-day stimulations. I'm trying to limit phone use. I'm trying to limit YouTube. I'm trying to limit television. Trying to limit processed foods. So I bought a book, The World in 2050. It's going to help me understand the direction we're heading. This Hamish McRae is well renowned. So yeah, this will help me see the big framing. It says at the back, talks about demographics, finance, technology, the environment, and ideas about governance. And then I've also got this one, which I actually brought with me. Similar, Power of Geography, the maps that reveal the future of our world. And if I even go to the first page I read earlier, it says it's about global politics in a new age of great power rivalry. Yeah, okay. Why the Earth's atmosphere is set to become the world's next battleground. It talks about the Middle East, Eastern Mediterranean as one of the most volatile flashpoints. Anyway, these books are going to give me a forward-thinking, big picture outlook that I can relate everything to, which will help my content, and also it's just good for the mind. It'll also allow me to focus and enjoy the day-to-day activities I'm doing, because there's that coherence between what I'm doing outside of work and what I'm doing in work. And yeah, we're gonna wrap that up, and thank you for watching.